The Nets have also been struggling. They
stinker.
beat Indiana. They actually kind of, I think, made a statement win against Indiana, but you can argue whether that was elite defense or Indiana missing point-blank shots. Could have been a little bit of both. But right now, the Nets have been struggling. They're 15-12 in the East. They're still third in the Eastern Conference. They're 6-4 in their last 10, but the Raptors beat them, and they scored 123 points. The Sixers beat them. They scored 124 points. And then the Pistons beat them, and the Pistons scored 122 points that game. They then beat Indiana, and they held Indiana to 94 points. For me, are there signs that you should be concerned about the Nets? Absolutely. Am I concerned? Hell no. And I'm not concerned because I got the guy that is ultimately the guy that makes me not concerned on my body right now. And that's James Harden, number 13, Fear the Beard. I got Kyrie Irving jersey hanging up behind you.
You're
Jack.
praising the wrong guy.
And Kevin Durant.
Should have said him first.
Kevin Durant. Listen, Harden, whatever you want to say about the transition to the Nets, Harden has been phenomenal. I still think he's being way too passive, and I will say this. The way he's playing right now is not superstar Harden. It's not MVP Harden. It's point guard Harden. I want him to be MVP Harden because there is no way, as great as Kyrie Irving is, Kyrie Irving should be taking more shots than Harden. I just don't think so. I think Harden needs to be taking more shots a game. I think he needs to be the second best scorer on that team, and Kyrie Irving has to take that back seat. Harden right now, I think, is under the impression and doesn't want to annoy Kyrie, doesn't want to upset Kyrie. He's still trying to figure out how to play with Kyrie, and because of that, he's being extremely passive, and it shows. Because when Harden and Kyrie have been playing and Durant has been out, Harden is still very passive. He still does not shoot a lot, even when he knows it's just him and Kyrie. But when Harden and Durant were both playing together as a duo, they both lit it up. They both took a lot of shots. They both were making their mark. The chemistry was undeniable. With Kyrie, there's a little bit of passiveness because he doesn't want to get on Kyrie's bad side. And because of it, I think it's holding back the Nets right now. Obviously, defense is a problem. Steve Nash said, you guys are going to have to decide what team you guys want to be. DeAndre Jordan has been horrible. Harden called him out against the game against the Pistons because DeAndre Jordan sometimes just looks like he doesn't try. But all in all, I think they have Kyrie, Harden, and Durant. They'll be fine. There are some things to be concerned about, but I'm not too worried. And
it's funny that you said when he called him out against the Pistons because against Indiana, like you said, it could have been a mix of them missing shots, playing defense. But when DeAndre Jordan was the primary defender, the team was 5 for 19. So the call out did a little bit to him.
This is his best game of the season.
Yeah, I want to say this though. I think Harden does that because he can flip flop. You know, I don't think Kyrie can instantly become their primary playmaker. I think because Harden has that ability to be that, I think it's easy for him to play the passive role. I don't think if you flip him, Kyrie can just take a back seat. I think it's harder for him to do it. So I think that's why he do it. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion why I think he do it. I think for the Nets, though, their problem is just lack of accountability. You know, you see a lot of the defense. It's just a lot of errors. Some guy not being in the right spot, a guy not calling out a pick, not switching hard enough, not getting over. It's just a lot of lack of accountability. And I think somebody in that locker room has to play that leadership role on the defensive end and call people out and set that tone for them. I think if they do that, they'll get it going. Their offense isn't a problem. You know, they've had a couple games where they stinked it up in the clutch, but they're going to get it over in the playoffs. They beat every playoff team they've played so far, so that's a good sign. But I just think the defense obviously is going to be a problem because they just don't have the personnel to be an elite defense. I think Shumpert's going to help, but I don't think he's going to make them an elite defensive team. But accountability, the Nets can go on stretches. We've seen for about 3-4 minutes where they lock it down defensively, and that's really all they need to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think they have to be an elite defensive team, and I think the issues are blown out of proportion because the losses are to bad teams, and people see that and they make a big deal out of it. But really when it comes down to it, and this is not a good thing to say because you You don't want to instill this type of attitude in your team. But speaking as a fan, you can look at the Nets and see they play much better against good teams than they do against bad teams. It's not sugarcoating it. When they play good teams, they clearly get up for those games. And they're going to be a playoff team. There's no question about that. And in the playoffs, they're going to be playing good teams every night. They're going to be playing up every night. It's not like they're going to be playing the Pistons at all in the playoffs. So when they get to playoff time and they've had months together, because I think a lot of people also forget that this team has only been together for a month, less than a month, and they're still figuring out the center role. They just brought in Norvel Pell and name's escaping me at the moment.
Noah Vonleh.
Yeah, Noah Vonleh. And they're still supposedly going to be active in the buyout market. So they're still putting this team together. And every night is a learning process.
I think this week is going to be really, really good.
I want to give a shout out. And I want to give a shout out to StatMuse. Because StatMuse is an amazing website.
You have the app?
Yes, I do too.
The one that tells you like 2 points, 3 points.
What are you talking about?
Like it tells you like how many threes they took, how many twos they took. Like it goes.
Yes, StatMuse is an amazing website, app, whatever you want to call it. I just searched it up. James Harden with Kyrie Irving attempts 13.1 field goals when he's with the Nets. Without Kyrie Irving, he's attempting 21. That's a huge difference. That's 20. That's low 20s to high 20s.
I just think that makes sense because I think Riv hit the nail on the head. James Harden can be so many more things to the Nets, and I do agree he needs to get more aggressive. And I think everybody's telling him that, but it's again a learning process. They got to get comfortable together.
This is the thing. Yes, Harden can be so many more things, but I saw Harden in 2016 or 2017, I believe, average 27 and 11. I've seen him do that.
But you can't do that.
Yes, I know, but I've seen him do that. And when you watch James Harden in Brooklyn right now, you can see the passiveness. You can see it. You can see the jitters. You can see that he's not taking some shots. It's so obvious. And for me, in order for the Nets to be by far favorites, they need to get MVP Harden, not just All-Star Harden. I think right now they're getting All-Star Harden and not MVP Harden.
I disagree. As long as Kevin Durant is on the court and the three of them are healthy, they're going to be the favorites in the East.
I think you want MVP Harden. I just think it's not enough shots in the game for that. Because then if he does that, Kyrie or Kevin Durant is going to have to take a back seat. And the way both of them are playing right now in terms of scoring and the efficiency, I don't think you want them to do that right now. I think you guys are good with Harden being that primary player. I do agree sometimes he does become a little passive and becomes a little hesitant, but you want Kyrie to just focus on being that scorer because he's just that dominant. You want KD to focus on being the scorer and Harden to be the playmaker because he's your best playmaker at the moment.
And I also think it has helped. You know, we've talked about how this narrative has been perpetuated throughout James Harden's career that he's not a good defender because he had to take defensive possessions off. He is not taking any defensive possessions off in Brooklyn. Like, he's playing every possession hard defensively, and it's showing. So I think it's a good mix. The only thing that they need to work out is when each other is going to turn it on, if that makes sense, for lack of a better word. Like, when Kevin Durant's out, James Harden is going to have to turn it on more than when
Harden
the three
has
of them
to
are on
do
the
it.
court.
Yeah, I agree.
The reason why Harden has to do it is because, look at this. When he was in Houston this season, he took 15 field goal attempts per game. With the Nets right now, he's taking 15 field goal attempts per game. With Houston, it was 17. So he was only taking 2 more shots per game in Houston, and he wasn't even trying in Houston. And for me, you can say what you want, the numbers can tell you what you want, but when I watch Harden in Brooklyn, I'm not watching the same Harden.
It shouldn't be, though.
No, yes, it should. I disagree. Yeah, I disagree. I have not seen that. Who was Kyrie Irving in Houston? It does not matter.
It does, though.
Wait, Kyrie Irving in Houston?
Yes. Who was his Kyrie Irving in Houston? John Wall?
I've seen James Harden with Chris Paul, another ball-dominant player.
But he's not a scorer dominant.
Chris Paul is not the scorer that Kyrie is.
He's phenomenal. But he held the ball a lot.
That's true.
Just saying, is he wasn't even trying in Houston, and he was averaging 17 shot attempts per game. And now he's with the Nets. He's averaging 15 shot attempts per game. And I feel like he just has to take it to another level. He can't be playing passive like this. He has to be the guy that I raved about all these years. This is the first time in like 8 seasons where he's not attempting more than 20 shots per game. Harden is arguably a top 5 scorer of all time. There is no way Kyrie should be taking more shots than him a game. Point blank, period.
Why not though?
Because he's not what?
He's not
the scorer that James Harden is. He's just not. He's just
hey,
not.
Man,
I don't know if you've been watching.
Not.
I mean,
hey, man,
you've been
Kyrie's,
watching this year. I don't know if you've seen Kyrie.
No, I know how great.
Incredible.
I know how great of a scorer Kyrie is, but he's not James Harden. When James Harden decides to turn it on, he's just not. And I know that you didn't watch much Houston because you said he wasn't a facilitator.
He did not play like a facilitator the last 2 years in Houston. He's playing like a facilitator right now, and you don't want to see it. So I don't know what you want. Do you want him to be a facilitator?
He's always been a facilitator to me. It's not that I don't want to see it. I always knew this was
By the way,
Harden.
Kyrie Irving's averaging 28 points a game on 50, 40, 90. So
no, he's playing phenomenal. I'm not saying
I don't know what more you want out of a scorer than 28 points a game on 50, 40, 90.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you're trying to argue with me that Kyrie's a better scorer than Harden, you need to get drug tested.
No, you're trying to make it seem like Kyrie. You're making it seem like it's a big jump. It's a big gap between Harden and Kyrie in terms of skill.
I think when Harden gets it going, it is. He's one of the best scorers the game has ever seen.
But he hasn't gotten it going. So
because he's not attempting shots.
Okay, so why are you going to force that when you have a guy who's putting up 28 points a game on 50, 40, 90?
Because
and
the Nets
Kevin
have
Durant,
been losing.
Who's playing because Kevin Durant hasn't been playing.
You should win games with Kyrie and Harden alone, if I'm being
Kyrie
honest.
takes more shots than Kevin Durant.
Yes, and that should not be happening.
But Kevin Durant leads the team in scoring.
Yes, because Durant's an efficiency god. That's why that's happening. But Kyrie should not be taking more shots than Harden and Durant. If we were to rank the Nets' best scorers, it goes Durant, Harden, and Kyrie. There's no way that
I don't see anything
Kyrie
wrong
should be
with Kyrie
more
taking.
shot attempts per game.
You could talk.
I think
about,
in the playoffs it'll change.
You could talk about what you think about them as scorers. I think that overall James Harden is a better scorer than Kyrie Irving. But when you look at the numbers this year and you watch the tape, Kyrie Irving has been an incredible scorer.
Because Harden has been passing.
Again,
because he looks fluid in that 2-guard spot. Like it looks effortless
because
in that
Harden's
2-guard spot.
Is
you turn Harden.
So great.
But I'm saying
He's
you turn Harden into that 2 spot. Where does Kyrie go? He can't be a facilitator.
You don't have to turn Harden to the 2 spot. Harden just has to be more aggressive on his own.
And then what happens to Kyrie? You're not answering that question.
He averages 24 points per game. What's the problem?
Your assets.
Why do you want him to drop down though?
Because Harden jumping up is going to make the team significantly better.
It will not.
Yes,
better than what they already now on offense now?
Yes.
How?
Their second offensive rating. If Harden takes that lead role, they will be first by a mile.
They're second in offensive rating because of the time James Harden wasn't there.
I'm just saying, Jack. You want to talk about look at the stats, look at this, look at that. Look at James Harden's stats in Houston. That's the guy you should be looking at. That's the guy I want with the Nets. Obviously, not as high as a volume on shots. He doesn't have to take as many shots per game. But you're trying to argue with me that Harden shouldn't be taking more shots per game than Kyrie.
No, I'm trying to argue with you that when you're maximizing your assets, it makes more sense to have James Harden playing the way he's playing.
Kyrie as a scorer, I think is being maximized, and it's looking like they're very beautiful together. I don't think Harden needs. I guess he could take a few more shots, but letting Kyrie play this role is fit better for him than playing him at the 1.
I'm just saying that everybody on the Nets would benefit if Harden was more aggressive, because I even seen it when Harden drives to the paint.
But that's not true.
Yes.
How do you know?
How would Kyrie,
how would Joe Harris benefit from Harden being more aggressive?
Because if he's more aggressive, the defense is just going to collapse on him more. I've seen
now.
All right, but I've seen this year on the Nets where Harden drives into the basket and defensive players don't even fall for that floater. Instead, a fake float, I'm going to pass it for a lob. They don't even fall for that anymore because they're like 90% certain that Harden's just going to pass the ball and they get a steal like that. That's why I think Harden's trying to force the issue too much sometimes. He shouldn't just be a scorer, but there's no way that Kyrie should be leading this team in shot attempts per game. That's all I'm saying.
You keep saying that. I agree with the point that he's being too passive at times.
Oh, so do you think that Kyrie should be leading the Nets in shot attempts per game?
I think it makes
the third
sense.
best player on the team.
I think it makes sense.
That's like
the way
saying
the
Chris,
offense
that's like
is
saying
running
Chris
right now.
Bosh should have shot the most shots when he was in Miami with LeBron and
That's
D-Wade.
ridiculous.
No.
Yes,
That's
it is.
ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
That is
Yes,
that
it is.
Kyrie, come on.
100% false equivalence.
That didn't even. That's a bad take. That's a really bad.
I'm just saying he's the third
No,
best
that's
player,
ridiculous.
but you want him to take the
No,
first best
that's
player's
ridiculous.
responsibility.
That's
You're making it seem like
ridiculous.
as a scorer, Harden and Kyrie is a big gap. Like Chris Bosh and D Wade was a very, very big gap, bro. It's nothing wrong with Kyrie being the number one scorer on the team right now. In
Again,
terms of shot
argue what
attempts.
you want.
Score, okay,
Kyrie
but shot
Irving,
attempts per game, no way.
Kyrie Irving,
no way.
He's getting 28
yeah.
points a game on 50, 49.
And they're losing.
Because Kevin Durant has not been playing. I don't know what's hard for you to understand about that. Not only is he their best offensive player, but he's their best defender too. And he's
James
one of
Harden-
their best rebounders. He's probably their
wait,
second
hold
best
up. So,
rebounder.
Jack, you're telling me that they should have lost to the Detroit Pistons?
No, but
They should have lost to
that
the
was an
Toronto
effort thing. That
Raptors?
was
We
an effort
already
thing.
said
They
that
should have lost to the Toronto Raptors?
That was a
All
good.
right, if you're not going to
So
let me speak,
wait, no.
if you're-
But you're
okay,
literally
go
your
on.
argument is literally they're losing because they don't have KD when they're losing to trash teams. That's what you're saying.
KD
They should be beating those teams with Harden and Kyrie alone. You don't need KD to beat the Pistons.
Are you done?
I'm not done.
Okay, then keep going.
You don't need Kyrie. You don't need KD, Kyrie, and Harden to beat the Pistons. You can beat them with just Kyrie and Harden.
Okay, are you done now?
Yes, go.
Okay, that was a waste of your breath because the reason they're losing those games is because of effort. Everybody has said it. You've said it. So I don't see why you're missing that point now.
No, obviously effort has to do with it, but Harden in those games has not taken 20-plus shot attempts per game. I don't think he's even touched 20.
Okay, if
there's
you-
a problem with
all right.
that.
Wait, is that a Kyrie problem? Because if KD's not playing and he's still not taking that shot, is that still a Kyrie problem?
I think it's Kyrie's impact on the court. It has a lot to do with it because Harden doesn't want to step on his toes and be like, this is my team. And that's also part of Harden's personality. Harden has never been a guy to be on the front lines and take ownership and be like, this is my team, no doubt about it. And it showed. In the playoffs and in close game situations, sometimes he does shy away from the ball. That has been a factor throughout his career. So right now, he's being extremely passive.
Well,
But the Nets are not going to be their best if he's going to be like that. He has to be MVP
disagree.
superstar Harden.
All right, so I mean, he could play the way he played in Houston, and you'll turn Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving into spot-up shooters, and it's minimizing the value of two of the best offensive players in the league right now.
If you want to say that, I mean, they did almost beat the best team ever assembled in NBA history doing exactly that.
Well, they didn't win.
They didn't win, but they almost beat them. So I'm just saying you don't have to turn them into spot-up shooters. I'm not saying he has to play the way he played in Houston, but you are being a fool if you are saying that if you are saying that James Harden doesn't pass up a bunch of shot attempts. He does in Brooklyn right now.
I said that multiple times. You're not listening.
But I'm saying he has to be more aggressive for them to take that next step.
I said the same thing, but you're acting like it's ridiculous for a guy who's averaging 28 points a game on 50, 40, 90.
You did not say the same thing. You did not say the same thing.
I didn't.
Am I going crazy? Did I not say from the beginning he needs to be more aggressive?
No, he did say that.
Okay, thank you.
But you guys just have different points. You feel like Kyrie shouldn't be the number one shot taker.
He does.
He doesn't see a problem to it.
You can argue with 28 points a game on 50, 40, 90. I'll be okay.
That is true. That's a pretty amazing efficiency.
Okay, I think numbers lie. And
What the hell?
that's an example of numbers lying right there.
Okay.
Wait, what? How is it lying?
I do. I think that those numbers don't paint the full story.
Of Kyrie? You watch Kyrie.
No, I watch Kyrie, and that's why I feel like the Nets are not at their best when Kyrie's just doing that. Because when Kyrie's doing what he's doing, he's just isoing and he's doing his thing, which takes away from the rhythm of the offense as a whole. So, you know that. Kyrie Irving doesn't pass like that.
That's why he's at the 2.
I know, but Kyrie Irving doesn't pass like that, and because of that, when you give him the ball, it's a one-man show.
So you are making my point.
But he doesn't make the offense be into more of a rhythm. When Harden is doing his thing and being the primary scorer, the offense as a whole is in more of a rhythm because he's a guy that's more willing to pass the ball.
And you are devaluing one of your biggest assets in Kyrie Irving because you are taking his best skill set and neutralizing it, and then he does really not much else for you. He's
really
a good playmaker. He's a bad defender.
You act like I'm saying that Kyrie has to be a spot-up shooter the whole game. He just doesn't have to get a bunch of ISOs a game and be the leading shot attempt player on the team. He doesn't have to take the most shots on the team. I think he should be third.
But that's where his value is the highest.
Really?
Yes.
As an ISO scorer? Yeah.
No, but that's where his value is the highest as an ISO scorer. But is that where the team's value is going to be the highest? Is that how the team's going to be the best?
I think so.
It's not going to be that
Kevin
way.
Durant is still getting 30 points a game on the amount of shots he's getting. James Harden has been a walking triple-double. He's still averaging 20 points a game with the Nets, at least. The offense is not the problem at all. The problems are defense and effort.
You know that Harden with the Nets so far has been streaky in averaging those 20 points per game, because there are some games that he'll go 5 for 8 and hit 8 free throws. And there are some games where he'll go 1 for 7. You know, he's always been that type of streaky player in terms of the amount of shots he misses versus he takes and he makes. So that's what I'm saying, is that Harden has to take a consistent amount of shots per game, because if you're limiting Harden to 13 shot attempts per game, you're
not getting out of him what you would be getting as a scorer, but he's still providing so much as a playmaker and a rebounder and a defender.
He would, bro, regardless if he has the ball in his hands and he's more aggressive in taking those shots, that him being a scorer would only add to his playmaking.
It's not about him. Because then you're taking those shots from Kyrie, who is providing what he's providing as a scorer. If you're taking away from him on the offensive end, you might as well not even have him on the court, because you could get better defense and better effort out of Bruce Brown, and he could just spot up shoot.
Yeah.
This is very funny coming from somebody who didn't even want Harden to begin with. But okay.
I mean, you see the problems. You see the problems. They're there, and I think they'll fix them. But
I don't think anybody would agree that Kyrie should be taking more shots than Harden and KD.
Okay, and that's fine.
You think that? So I just want to make it clear. You think that Kyrie Irving should be taking more shots than Kevin Durant and James Harden?
I think right now, with the three of them, and the time they're on the court, they're on pace for the best offensive rating in NBA history.
So wait, no, just answer.
Kyrie Irving
just
is
answer.
taking the most shots.
So Kyrie Irving should be taking more shots than Kevin Durant and James Harden per game. Yes or no?
All I'm gonna say is, with the three of them on the court,
that's a yes.
They are on pace for the best offensive rating in NBA history.
No, they're actually second in offensive rating right now.
In the over the course of the season, which James Harden has not been there the whole year.
James Harden.
With the three of them playing, they are on pace for the greatest offensive rating in NBA history.
So you guys heard it. You heard it, Riff. He basically said yes. He doesn't want to say yes because he doesn't want to say it with conviction. But you basically said yes, that you're okay with Kyrie Irving taking more shots than Kevin Durant and James Harden.
I'm just telling you that the offense looks great right now, and you don't want that because you think it takes away from James Harden.
No,
I think it adds to James Harden, personally.
Whoa.
I'm okay with it.
So, yes, Jack thinks that Kyrie Irving should be taking more shot attempts per game.
See,
than
this
Harden
is what you do.
That's what you said.
No.
That's what he said.
But I never said that. You are trying to phrase it like that because you think it makes me look worse.
No, you're trying to phrase it in a way
I'm not trying to phrase anything.
You don't have to say yes.
I'm not trying to phrase anything. I'm bringing up facts, and you are trying to phrase things to make me look bad.
Okay, so you're saying you're okay with Kyrie Irving taking the most shots because it's leading to the best offensive rating in NBA history on pace for it.
Yes.
So that's a yes. That's a yes. Am I crazy for thinking that that's a yes? That's a yes. Hey, Riv, am I crazy for thinking that's a yes?
Y'all both not wrong. They're just not understanding each other right now.
I think that's a yes.
You guys are crazy.
I mean, if you want to mess with the greatest offense in NBA history, you can do that.
Okay, 6-4 in the last 10 games. Slow down.
Without Kevin Durant.
It's cool.
You are cherry picking stats to make your case look better, but find me the numbers with Kevin Durant on the court. They're a totally different team.
It's been a really low sample size. So I don't know. We can see.
So what's the point?
We can see. I'm not cherry picking any stats.
You just did.
Why? I said they're 6-4 in the last 10?
In the last 10, but that's without the best player on the team on the court. So I don't know what that has to do with anything.
So how is that cherry
I have
picking?
made no arguments about.
How is that cherry picking stats when most of those teams they should have beat even without Kevin Durant?
Because that's a whole different story. The whole argument I've been making is with Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and James Harden on the court.
Okay, but
so you can use stats without Kevin Durant on the court.
My whole argument this whole time has been Harden should take more shot attempts per game than Kyrie, and Harden should be more aggressive, and that Kyrie should not be taking more shot attempts per game than Durant and Harden. That's my argument this whole time.
Sometimes it be in the rhythm and the flow of the game, though. If he's hot, you just got to give it to him and let him work.
A lot of times,
clearly he has been most of the season if he's shooting 50, 40, 90.